Jasmine Thomas had spent years working hard at Strickland Industries, a top-tier tech corporation that prided itself on innovation and inclusivity. As one of the few black women in the company, Jasmine always felt she had to prove herself more than others, always working twice as hard to earn respect. But her persistence had paid off. At 28, she had already made a name for herself as a talented software engineer, with multiple successful projects under her belt. One afternoon, as she was hunched over her desk in the open concept office, the buzz of the fluorescent lights above her and the hum of voices around her all but drowned out the ringing of her phone. It was a call she wasn't expecting, an invitation to a meeting with Victor Gray, the senior vice president of the company. "Jasmine, we've been impressed with your work. You've shown incredible promise, and we'd like to offer you a promotion. A chance to lead your own team." Her heart skipped a beat as Victor's voice rang in her ear, the words hanging in the air. A promotion. To lead her own team. She had heard whispers of her achievements, but this was the confirmation she had been waiting for. It was everything she had worked for. Victor, a tall man with salt and pepper hair and sharp features, was a fixture in the corporate world. His approval was almost like a seal of validation. But Jasmine knew that the path to success at Strickland wasn't just about being good at your job. It was about navigating the nuances of office politics, something Jasmine had always struggled with. She met with him the following day in his sleek, glass-walled office that overlooked the city skyline. The meeting was smooth, professional. He talked about her past achievements, outlined her responsibilities, and assured her the promotion was hers for the taking. But something in his smile didn't sit right with her. She couldn't quite place it. After the meeting, Jasmine returned to her desk, the weight of her new responsibility heavy on her shoulders. But as the days went by, she started to notice subtle things. Colleagues, once cordial, now offered her forced smiles. Some gave her curt nods, others whispered as she passed by. The usual warmth she felt from the team seemed to evaporate into cold indifference. And then, she started looking into the promotion itself. It wasn't long before Jasmine found a thread, small inconsistencies in the way her work had been credited. In reports, emails, and internal memos, she realized her contributions were being minimized or completely overlooked by her peers. And even more disturbing, the praise and recognition she thought she had received were often passed on to others. But the most painful realization came when she stumbled across a thread in her emails that confirmed her worst fears. Her promotion wasn't a celebration of her hard work, it was a way for the company to place her in a position of vulnerability. They had used her as a pawn, knowing that they could control her while they set her up for a fall. Jasmine's heart sank when she uncovered the truth. The people she worked with, the ones who had seemed like allies, had quietly been undermining her for months, if not years. Her successes, the ones she had earned with every ounce of effort, had been twisted. Her contributions, which had brought her praise, had been exaggerated or flat-out fabricated by her colleagues. The moment she realized this, everything clicked into place. Her achievements hadn't been her own. They had been shaped by her white colleagues, manipulated to fit a narrative. Jasmine had become the token success story, the diversity hire who had excelled despite her background. She had been used to show Strickland's commitment to inclusivity, a victory to highlight during press releases and board meetings. But it wasn't her victory, it was their story. Her colleagues, mostly white, had engineered her success to fit the image they wanted to project. And now, they were setting her up to fail. The next logical step was clear: they would discredit her as an exception, and the mistakes she made in her new role would be used to strip her of her credibility and place her at the bottom of the corporate ladder once again. But Jasmine wasn't the type to be manipulated without a fight. It started with a quiet conversation with her colleague, Sarah, who had been the one to subtly diminish Jasmine's contributions in meetings. Sarah's usual confidence faltered when Jasmine confronted her, but it wasn't the direct confrontation that hurt the most. It was Sarah's casual admission that Jasmine's success wasn't as organic as she thought. The company wanted to make a statement, Sarah said, her tone almost apologetic. They needed someone to show how inclusive they are. You fit the mold. But it's not real, Jasmine. You're not the person they're portraying you to be. That night, Jasmine stayed late at the office, going through old files, emails, and internal communications, piecing together the full picture of what had been done to her. She saw how they had built a story around her. How they'd convinced the upper management that she was the future of the company when, in reality, she was nothing more than a strategically placed figurehead. She was furious. But the rage wasn't directed solely at her colleagues. It was at herself for allowing this to happen, for not seeing through their charades earlier. It was at Strickland Industries for using her to sell an image they never truly believed in. Jasmine knew that the only way to reclaim her life, her identity, was to expose them. But it wouldn't be easy. She was up against an entire corporate structure designed to protect its own, and any misstep could cost her everything she'd worked for. She had to be strategic. She had to play their game better than they had ever played it. The following weeks became a battle of wits. Jasmine began gathering evidence, securing documents, and recording conversations. She carefully made her moves, ensuring that she kept her position while slowly building the case that could expose the corruption at the heart of Strickland Industries. She wasn't going to let them erase her success or her worth. The day of the board meeting arrived. Jasmine had carefully orchestrated every step of her plan, using her new position to her advantage. She had gathered allies from the lower levels of the company, employees who had watched her fight for respect for years. They weren't the high-level executives, but they were loyal to her. Together, they formed a quiet alliance that would help her expose the truth. Jasmine walked into the conference room, her posture straight, her face calm. She had done everything in her power to make sure she was ready for this moment. She didn't flinch as she looked around the room at the people who had used her, Victor Gray, Sarah, and the others who had manipulated her rise for their own gain. "I've asked for this meeting," Jasmine said, her voice cutting through the murmur of conversation as she stood at the head of the table. "To speak about my promotion and the truth behind it." Victor's face hardened, and Sarah shot a quick glance at him before turning her gaze to the table, unable to meet Jasmine's eyes. But Jasmine wasn't intimidated anymore. She had the evidence, the emails, the reports, the conversations. She had everything she needed to prove that her success had been nothing but a carefully curated narrative. "I've worked hard for everything I've achieved at this company," Jasmine continued, her voice unwavering. "But what I've come to realize is that none of it was mine. You used me to push an image of diversity and success that wasn't real. You took my work and twisted it, erased my true contributions, and then set me up for failure when the time was right." She pulled up the files, one by one, showing the evidence to the board. She watched as their faces shifted from smug to defensive. Their attempts to brush her off, to silence her, fell apart one by one as Jasmine presented the truth. The manipulation, the lies, they were all laid bare in front of the most powerful people in the room. And when she was done, she didn't wait for them to speak. "I will not be part of your corporate charade anymore," she said, her eyes fierce. "You've already taken too much from me. But I'll make sure everyone knows the truth." Victor's voice rose in protest, but Jasmine didn't let him finish. She had already sent the evidence to the press, to the industry watchdogs, and to the company's investors. The story was out. And Strickland Industries would never be the same. In the weeks that followed, Jasmine's name became synonymous with accountability and courage. She was hailed as a whistleblower, a woman who had exposed the systemic corruption within one of the largest tech firms in the country. She had lost her position at Strickland, but she had gained something far more valuable, her integrity. She moved on to a new chapter, one where her success would no longer be manipulated by others. And as she walked away from the wreckage of Strickland Industries, she knew one thing for sure: no one could ever take her worth again.